Today, a Canon G70 with a tiny sensor versus an XA70 with a 1-inch sensor, head-to-head. I got a comment from Yiming Wu at Chengdu Little A. Any chance you could take a look at the Canon XA70/75, which does 4K downsample to full HD? I think it should give you a pretty sharp image. Thank you for suggesting that. I got one. So, I had the G70, which has a small 1/2.3-inch sensor, and then I got, thanks to Yiming Wu's suggestion, I got the XA70. So here's first thing I did when I got it is I took off the stupid XLR handle, threw that away. I haven't used XLR in 9 years. All right, anyway, so here we go. Here we have the G70 and the XA70. G70, small, tiny sensor, 1/2.3, 1-inch sensor on the XA70. You can see they're very similar looking, almost exact same thing, except this one's a little bigger and a little heavier. It's also twice the price, exactly. The G70 is $1,100. The XA70 is $2,300. So, is it worth it? Is there a big difference? The only real difference, all the knobs, all the functionality, everything about these is almost exactly the same, except this is the big one here. This one, you have to open the door to get to the SD card, pull this up, and then there's your SD card. I hate that, having to get to that every time. This one, which I love, it has a top loading slot. You just pull that and there's your SD card right there. So you don't ever have to reach underneath there. It's so easy to get to. I love that. Other than that, they're pretty much the same thing. I love these things, how you open the lens cap is automatic on there. I love that. By the way, you don't even need these. These come off. You don't, if you want to have it really small, but I never do. I just leave it on there. Okay, so this one has buttons for ND filters on the sides. This one has auto ND filter. You can turn it automatic or off. But other than that, these buttons are exactly the same. The record buttons, everything is the same. Just a little bigger and heavier on this one. Both do 4K 30. This one, the G70, has a further zoom, 20 times optical zoom, great face detection, autofocus, even though it's not dual pixel apparently, but it's just as good for some reason. This one has dual pixel autofocus, and obviously that's really good, and has great eye detection autofocus. They both have really good eye detection autofocus. Right out of the box, both of these things have that horrible muddy blue camcorder look. So the first thing I did, obviously, was create my own custom profile settings. I made a video about the G70 custom settings. Here's what it looks like when you get it out of the box, and here's what it looks like when you do the custom settings. And here's the XA70 right out of the box. And here's what it looks like with my custom settings. The custom settings are not exactly the same as the G70. Remember, these are different sensors. The XA70 is a little more apparently on the red side. It really likes the reds, so it took me a bit of struggle to try to get the reds toned down, but I did. I think I got pretty good in here. So the settings are not exactly the same for both. I'll put my custom settings down below for each one. Now remember, this is my taste. Your taste may vary. And how you get to these settings is click on the menu button on the back of the camera. See where it says CP function? Make sure that is on. Turn that on. Go out of the menu, and now you go down to function here. You click function in the bottom left corner. CP, I pick CP2, whatever. And then you click, there's a little menu symbol there. You click on that. Turn the protection to unprotect. You go down to gamma color space, and that's where all your settings are that you can adjust. And then I'll give you the settings for those. The XA70 being a big 1-inch sensor, 10 times the size of a sensor as this one. It's obviously going to be sharper. So here's a shot with the G70, looks pretty good. And here's a shot with the XA70. Just as good, but sharper. It's got more detail, crisper looking. The low light sensitivity, obviously the smaller sensor is going to be a little more grainier and not sensitive. It works okay. Here's the XA70 in low light, not that much different. And telephoto, let's get to the cinematic blurry background look, which you can only get if you zoom the telephoto all the way. The G70 goes a lot further. It's a 20 times zoom with a small, tiny sensor. When you have a tiny sensor, you can zoom a lot further. This one here was filmed at 64 feet away. That's quite a distance to get this shot. The XA70, 45 feet away, zoomed in maximum, which is a 15 times zoom. Looks pretty good. XA70, the widest f-stop is 2.8. The widest f-stop on the little guy is 1.8. Now you might say, oh, well then I'm going to get blurry backgrounds with the little guy. No, but it's a smaller sensor. So you're going to get pretty much exact same look. Even though this is a 1.8, it's a smaller sensor. This is a 2.8, but it's a larger sensor. The only you're going to notice difference is the XA70 is a little sharper and the color is a little more reddish before you change it. And it's twice as expensive. So this is half the price of this one. It's smaller and lighter, which I love. I love small, lightweight stuff, but this isn't really that much heavier. It's just a little bigger. You can see the two sizes here. That's what they look like. All right, let's see what these look like in 1080 compared to 4K. Here's the G70 in 1080. Doesn't look too bad. I mean, you can tell it's 1080, but it looks pretty darn good. And remember, this is a tiny little sensor. Tiny sensor, 1/2.3. And here's the G70 in 4K. This is where the G70 starts looking really good. Really crisp and sharp. For a tiny little sensor, they really got some good quality out of it. I like it. Okay, here's the XA70 in 1080. Pretty darn good. Remember, this is a 1-inch sensor, so you're gonna have some really high quality stuff here. Here's the G70 4K next to the 1080 from the XA70. Now remember, these are different sensors, so the colors are not going to match perfectly, but the little G70 sure holds its own pretty darn good. Okay, so again, this is the 1080 from the XA70, and this is the 4K from the XA70. Really nice. Really, really nice. And here's the 1080 and 4K side by side from the XA70. Yiming Wu is right. The 1080 does look really good in the XA70, downsampling from the 4K. Really good quality. So you can shoot this thing in 1080 and get good quality. Of course, the best is always 4K, but the 1080 is pretty darn good. So here we have all four with the G70 and the XA70 in both 1080 and 4K. You can see all four right here compared and see what they look like. Remember, most people are going to be watching this on a little cell phone, so it's not like it's going to be a big deal. Only middle-aged men do pixel peeping with giant screens. Most people look at stuff on cell phones. Another reason to do 1080, the file sizes are a lot smaller. It's only 35 megabytes per second versus the 150 megabytes per second of the 4K. So you can get good stuff with both of these camcorders. They're easy to use, and the eye tracking autofocus is perfect with both of them. I could play with this all day. That's so cool. What else? What are people going to ask? Got HDMI, headphone jack, microphone jack. Yes, yes. HDMI, microphone, headphone. Yes, yes. What else? It's got the focus ring that you can tell it to be something else if you want, f-stop or whatever. It has another knob to turn down here for changing settings, and they all have joysticks on the back also. They both charge with the USB-C, which is really cool, so you don't even have to have a charger. You just plug this in there. You don't have to take the battery out. The batteries last a long time. I don't know. They just last all day. It's not a very exact answer, but anyway. And they both have viewfinders, which go up like this, which is really cool. Yep, they both do. And what else? Anyway, so yeah, I like these. I know Sony came out with the Z200 and the NX800. Everybody's going to ask me about all that. Those are 1-inch sensors. Yeah, but they're $4,000. And no thanks. And they're bigger and heavier. I would rather stick with my... I would much rather stick with my Z90V and the AX100. They're both 1-inch sensors. And if I'm only doing something that's 10 minutes long, I'll stick with my RX100 and the LX10. So these are both, all of these are smaller, more lightweight, and cheaper than the new Z200 and NX800, which I refuse to spend that much money for something that is so big and heavy and clunky. I like small, lightweight stuff. So everything on this table right now that you see, these are all 1-inch sensor camcorder / cameras to do video with. And the Z90V has excellent eye tracking autofocus, one of the best in the world. The colors are eh. The AX100, I know there's a 700 in there. The AX100, the autofocus is eh, but the colors are better than the Z90V, and this is a lot cheaper. You can get these for like under $1,000. Both of these cameras are cheaper than the new ones. But you know me, I love using this. This is my camcorder, RX100 Mark 7. But anyway, so there you go. This was a request from Yiming Wu of Chengdu Little A. I like it. I like it. It's sharp and it's good. It's pretty much the same as this, but sharper and a little more reddish. And it has the top-loading SD, which I really love. That is so, I wish they all had that. That's it. Okay, I will see you in another video. If you have anything you want me to review or whatever, talk about, yell about, complain about, let me know. I'll talk to you in the next video. Until then, have a good one. Bye.